Hello, everyone. Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap. Today in Bible study, we looked at the book of Acts, chapter 12. This is a story about how Peter is taken captive by Herod Agrippa. So this is our last week in our Passover series because we're through Easter, and Passover was our theme for Lent and for Easter, and so this is going to be our last one in this series that we're doing here. So this is a story found in the book of Acts. So this is after Jesus has ascended into heaven in the beginning of the early church. And here, this is all following like the persecution that's begun to affect a lot of Christians. And we have this character, Herod Agrippa. Now, Herod Agrippa is the grandson of Herod the Great. He's the one who tried to kill Jesus when he was a baby, right? That Herod. And he's a nephew of Herod Antipas, who's also another person of the Herodian dynasty. That's what they're called. Who runs afoul of other people in the Bible. And so Herod Agrippa is here, and he begins to persecute the church, and he kills James. This is not James, Jesus's brother. This is James, the brother of John, the son of Zebedee. So James is killed by the sword. We're not told how that happens, other than that it does. And he's the first one to be martyred among the apostles, not the last, certainly by the Bible's own account and by church tradition. One of the things that is interesting is that while he murders James, he also takes Peter captive because he realizes this is pleasing the people. And the Herodians are not a very popular group of rulers, and so being able to please the people is good for them. So they're like, okay, well, if they hate Christians, let's get rid of the Christians. The thing about the story is that like God is at work even amongst persecution, which is important to know. And the reason, right, like Luke will bring up that this is during Passover, and that's for a specific purpose of drawing our attention to this fact, right? So Peter is taken into prison, and while he's in prison, an angel of the Lord shows up and frees him. He's probably being held in this place called the Antonia Fortress, which was built by Herod the Great, which is right next to the temple. It's named after Mark Antony, who was one of Herod's sponsors, if you will. So there you go. You got some big Roman history there, big name in Roman history. And this fortress has like gates that lead to the temple, but also lead out into the city. And so what happens is that this angel leads Peter out of this place, right, of the fortress, and into the city. He's able to escape. When he gets to the disciples, a really interesting thing happens, right? They've been praying fervently for Peter to come back, and when he does, they don't believe it's him. Kind of interesting, right? They believe that the angels can take appearances of people. Right? This is a common belief at this time period, and you'll see them reference that. And it's only when they kind of open the door and realize that it's Peter that they're like, oh my gosh, it's Peter. And you also have a reference to James, the brother of Jesus, who's not one of the 12 disciples. He comes to faith, it seems, after the resurrection. But he ends up becoming to play a bigger and bigger part of the Jerusalem church. And he's the one who's going to be kind of the head of the Jerusalem church going forward. And so what Herod does is Herod kills the guards, because that would be the punishment for a prisoner escaping on your watch. So they kill him. Kill them, and then you have this other scene where you have just as an angel saves Peter, it also strikes Herod dead in judgment. So Luke records how Herod had this gathering, and that he's all great or whatever, and then he's struck dead by an angel, and it says he did not give the glory to God, and he became eaten by worms. Which is quite a phrase. Means he died, right? And one of the things I want to point out, just because I found it interesting, is we actually have another recording of Herod's death. And that's a lot more detailed, and it comes from Josephus, but I think it's interesting, right? Because you can see that both Josephus and Luke place Herod's death in the same year. So there's everyone agrees I think it's AD 44 when Herod dies, and it's like the same type of occasion, right? And so you can hear what Josephus says. He says, On the second day of a festival, Herod Agrippa appeared in the theater with a robe made of silver, and when it sparkled in the sun, the people cried out flatteries and declared him to be a god. So this is very similar to the way it's presented in ours, right? I mean, it's more detailed, but you can see that like Josephus is recounting the same event. He says the king, carried away by the flattery, saw an owl, which in this culture is an omen of death. Like if you see an owl, it's like kind of maybe like a crow in ours, or a raven, like how that is kind of like an omen of death to us when you see a raven, like ooh, spooky, right? So he sees an owl. It's sitting on a nearby rope, and immediately, Josephus says, he was struck with severe stomach pains. He was carried off to his house and died 5 days later. So you can see they're referencing the same event here, right? Now they both use that word immediately, euthys, I believe, in Greek, to talk about what happens. And Luke says he dies. So you could say like Luke saying he dies immediately, but I think like Luke saying he killed him, God kills him, right? Whether it's at that exact second, or he gives him something and kills him 5 days later, as Josephus says. I don't really see a contradiction there. But yeah, you see this. This is recorded in another source, which I thought was pretty cool. And then, like in the midst of this, you see Saul and Barnabas. So that's going to be Paul, right? Or it is Paul, but this is his Hebrew name, being sent to get a famine relief gift for Jerusalem. And so this is also when you start to see Paul begin to take a greater role in the church, right? After this first wave of persecution, which he was kind of a part of. And so they're going to kind of be more like the nature of the church is changing up to this point, or after this point. It's going to become much more focused out there, sort of thing, less centered around Jerusalem. And all this is to say, right, is the Passover is important because I think Luke draws our attention to that, because just as like God saved the people of Israel from the Exodus, from slavery in Egypt, right? He saves Peter from prison, and just as God strikes down the Egyptians, God strikes down Herod here for attacking his church, right? Does that mean that there isn't sadness or difficulty amongst all this? Of course not, right? There is, but it's setting up the pattern, right? That God is going to protect his people, and so that's an important thing to remember. So yeah, all that just to say, I thought this was a fun Passover story in the Bible. I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you when I get back from California, because I'm going away on Sunday. So have a great rest of your week, and then the week after that, and I'll see you when I get back. Peace out.